wanted to enshrine his country as the home of 21st century socialism. And in almost 15 years of power, Hugo Chavez was succeeded in profoundly changing Venezuela. He first came to power in an election in 1999. That's 7 years after he tried to seize power by force. And he immediately left his mark by establishing the Bolivarian Revolution and changing the constitution. The aim to build a new democracy with the working classes at the heart of it. Chavez had a powerful weapon, the weapon of oil. Venezuela, one of the world's leading producers, and prices then at their highest allowed the financing of social programs, schools and the building of free homes for thousands of Venezuelans. He became a symbol throughout the world, the spokesperson for a new left, the champion of American anti-imperialism. In 2006, at the UN, he hit out against George Bush, openly mocking the President of the United States.
Ayer estuvo el diablo aquí.
The devil was here yesterday. And this podium that I'm now standing in front of still smells of sulfur.
Esta mesa donde me ha tocado hablar. Ayer,
Yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, from this stage, the President of the United States, the gentleman to whom I refer as the devil, came here talking as if he owned the world.
vino aquí hablando como dueño del mundo.
For nearly 15 years, Hugo Chavez dominated elections. He was extremely popular, but his government hardened as he fought to keep his grip on power. His motto, homeland, socialism or death. Against him, the opposition, well, non-existent. Then, in 2013, as he began his fourth presidential term, Hugo Chavez succumbed to devastating cancer. Before his death, he anointed a successor, his vice president, Nicolas Maduro, who narrowly won the 2014 presidential election. But Maduro has never had the aura of Chavez, and the country's economy began to gradually sink into crisis, right as oil prices collapsed. From 2017, the United States also imposed tough economic sanctions. Shortages, hyperinflation, insecurity, pushing thousands and millions of Venezuelans to leave their homeland. For those who have stayed, though, what is daily life like today in a country still in crisis but ruled with an iron fist by the Chavista power? Well, cameras are not always welcome, but Pascal Mariani, Juan Orozco, Herminia Fernandez and Simone Bruno revisit Caracas for France 24.
Radio Miraflores da la hora.
Las 4:00. A continuación, desde Caracas, Venezuela, presentamos el avance de las noticias más importantes por Radio Miraflores, la voz de la verdad.
This is a socialist city founded by our commander Chavez. Thanks to him and Fidel Castro, this beautiful city exists. When they passed by here in a helicopter to go to the airport, they saw this land. Then Fidel Castro gave him the idea of building a big city here, and that's what he did.
In 2011, Hugo Chavez inaugurated his socialist city project on these mountains. An hour from Caracas, the new city of Ciudad, Caribia, offered free and dignified housing to thousands of disadvantaged and homeless people. A decade later, behind every window, a family struggles against the hardships of everyday life. Maria lives in an apartment with her children and grandchildren.
My mother says this apartment is hers, but for me it belongs to the government. Many people here have had their homes confiscated because they emigrated or behaved badly, so they get evicted.
A few days ago, tragedy struck the family. Edgar, Geraldine's ex-partner, died in Peru, thousands of miles away.
In the newspaper, they say the mafia kills a Venezuelan street vendor with 15 bullets.
One of his friends sent this article to Geraldine from Peru.
He called me on the phone and said, "Hi, are you the mother of his children?" I said, yes, what happened? He said the guy had an argument in the morning with someone in the street, and in the evening a man came and shot him.
Edgar had fled his country's severe crisis to find a job and send money home for his children. Maria is convinced that none of this would have happened if Chavez were still alive. She is a member of the Bolivarian militia, a body of reserves trained to defend the government of Nicolas Maduro.
If there is a coup, all of us militias will take action. All those who work for the government are ready for anything.
But let me tell you, she receives no benefits for being in the militia. Mom, how many times did they give you a food package in the militia?
5 times.
5 times. And how long have you been in the militia?
5 years.
5 years, 1 box of food per year. I don't think that's fair. Many people make fun of them. And the government wants to use them as shields.
Look, this is the official uniform.
Political differences are also becoming more and more generational.
These are the studios of our radio.
Roberto, a Chavista militant from the very beginning, is the host of the Ciudad Caribia radio.
This is when Commander Chavez inaugurated Ciudad Caribia. Ciudad Caribia is born and populated by new men and women to continue building the socialism of the 21st century. This is what the main essence of all this is.
The idea was to develop industries and businesses on site to make the city self-sufficient. But with the crisis, it never prospered.
Look, fellow comrades are cultivating the land down there. We've been under an economic blockade for years. The North American empire is working against us. And this has hugely affected the population.
The government of Nicolas Maduro regularly distributes food parcels at subsidized prices throughout the country, under the supervision of Chavista militants.
Good evening. My name is Amada Aponte. I'm the first commander of the Peace Squadron. What is a Peace Squadron? An organized group of men and women who do political and social work.
The food packages usually contain starchy foods, but on this day, each family receives a frozen chicken and a piece of sausage.
In a butcher shop, a chicken like this is worth 24 bolivars. And here, the combo of protein with the chicken is worth 4 bolivar, or 4 million in old bolivar.
$1. It costs $1. But elsewhere...
You can't talk in dollars. No, you can't say a dollar. No, we pay in sovereign currency. We are not in the United States, we're in Venezuela, and here we pay in sovereign bolivar.
Each building has a spokesperson, in charge of distributing the supplies to the households.
But here we don't exclude anyone. For example, if he was in opposition, we would still give it to him. Here, there is no exclusion. Long live Maduro, the worthy son of our eternal and supreme commander, Hugo Chavez. Chavez lives, the nation goes on.
Food is the nerve of the crisis in Venezuela. In Caracas, in recent years, soup kitchens have appeared in almost every neighborhood. Every day, the La Vega canteen feeds about 100 children for free.
Out of every 100 or so kids who come here, there are 22 who eat just that for the entire day.
The cooks are volunteer mothers. The food comes from donations. Behind the initiative, an NGO close to the opposition.
The government never liked to see NGOs flourish. When we started opening these canteens, the Chavistas pressured the mothers. They told them, if you take your child to eat there, they will take away your food package.
Everywhere, the effects of years of crisis and shortages are visible.
Because of the situation and the inflation, many people can't buy spare parts for their cars anymore. So they leave them like that in the street.
The Venezuelan currency is constantly devalued. The banknotes lose their value very quickly.
This is for playing cards. It's worth nothing. It's just for playing cards.
Gas. This is for buying gas.
As with food parcels, gas distribution in the neighbourhoods is handled by a spokesperson, usually close to the government.
Will there be another distribution today?
This is our last delivery. I started on Saturday.
Because I have 3 empty bottles in the canteen. We have no gas. We have water only when it suits them. The electricity is cut off at all times. We can't buy the food we want. It's unacceptable that we Venezuelans have to live like this.
According to a recent study, 95% of Venezuelans live in poverty. Petare, on the hills of Caracas, was for a long time a Chavista stronghold. Yolanda Vegas is a militant for the opposition.
Hi, love.
Long live the revolution, but of hunger.
We can't go on like this. How are you, my dear? Fighting on? That's very important.
The dissatisfaction is growing in the neighbourhood.
This is my shack.
However, Yolanda's candidate failed in the last local elections, which were won by strongly mobilised Chavists.
Come and see how I live here. The buckets are empty, there's no water. This is the toilet.
Yolanda worked as a municipal employee. She receives a pension of 7 bolivars, less than $2 a month.
Want to know what I did with my pension this month? I bought this pack of cornflakes and 120 grams of powdered milk.
At the local grocery stores, prices are now displayed in dollars. The elderly live in misery, without real health care.
Good afternoon. How are you all doing? She fell. She had to have an operation. She was seriously injured during the surgery. In fact, they assumed she was going to die, and they left her with her intestines on the outside.
After an emergency colostomy, Avelina cannot afford to be operated on again, or even to buy a colostomy bag.
I was given surgical gloves, and this is what I use.
One tragedy follows another in Avelina's life. She's lost 4 sons. 3 were killed in gang violence, another by the police.
This was the last one they killed, a healthy, hard-working boy. And this was her husband. He had a heart attack when he heard that Avelina was going to die.
At mealtime, she only has a few potatoes to boil.
With your condition, you should get a balanced diet. How do you do it?
I have this to last me until tomorrow when I go to the soup kitchen.
You've got nothing else until tomorrow, Avelina? We really do suffer here.
That belonged to my husband. He was a Chavista.
But how proud the government must be to see his portrait here when they don't give you any help. Can you believe it? We can't worship him as if he were a god, because there's only one God.
The shadow of Hugo Chavez continues to hang over Venezuela. but the country has changed. Since 2020, the unofficial dollarization allowed by the government has given a new lease of life to the economy. Caracas has seen the reappearance of pockets of wealth, construction, restaurants, or fancy coffee shops.
We're the first company here to make coffee in capsules. We now have the opportunity to be able to handle a foreign currency, and that generates not only confidence but also business opportunities.
Here, a coffee is worth $2 or $3, the monthly salary of many Venezuelans.
There are two Venezuelas. This is now the reality of the majority of the country. This is like a little bubble.
There are social differences that have become worse with everything that's happened. And that's not really the idea of socialism.
In this economy gone mad, everyone is struggling to get by.
Who wants coffee?
It's 7 a.m. Geraldine from Ciudad, Caribia, sells coffee in the biggest wholesale market in Caracas.
I sold 7 flasks of coffee. 7 flasks is about $30, much more than the minimum wage. But it's tough.
Despite the death of her ex-partner who left to try his luck in Peru, Geraldine has a project in mind.
I would like to emigrate because I think there's no future here. At least for my children, I won't be able to give them everything they need here.
Nearly 6 million of 30 million Venezuelans have decided to go into exile. For those who leave, as well as for those who stay, there is no end in sight to the country's long-lasting crisis.
Pascal Mariani, Juan Orozco, Aminia Fernandez and Simone Bruno revisiting Caracas for France 24. Well, that's all from this week's edition. Of course, you can catch it and the previous editions as well on our website. That's at france24.com. More news coming up very shortly. Thanks for watching.